Company, iHeartMedia Incorporated.
Statements made during this broadcast regarding products or the claims made about specific products have not been evaluated by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Products and treatments discussed are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. Make your physician aware of all nutritional supplements used and immediately notify your physician if you have any health concern or undiagnosed sign or symptom. Let's Talk Nutrition is a health talk show that features scientists, authors, nutrition specialists, personal trainers, holistic healers, and experts in traditional, natural, and integrative medicine. Listen for a chance to win daily prizes and follow Let's Talk Nutrition on Facebook and Instagram at Let's Talk Nutrition or on Twitter at LTN Radio. It's time for some inspiration. Tune in to get fit and healthy. It's time to talk about nutrition. Nutrition for your body, your mind, your spirit. It's time to talk about proper exercise, stress relief, eating well, and supplementation to help. Get ready to take charge of your health because your health is your wealth and the wealth of those who care about and love you. It's time for Let's Talk Nutrition with Dr. Michael Garko. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. Thanks for tuning in. Glad you could. We're glad to be here with you. And we're off to a new week. Hope you had a wonderful weekend and lived it in good health in whatever ways you do that. Everybody has their own little program, right? A lot of similarities, a lot of differences. And we try to sort through it all. I spent my weekend, most of it, reading, working on this aging project. Not me. I am an aging.
Hey, you are, yeah, you're aging, but you're not that project.
Yes, sir. We all are an aging project, aren't we not?
We are.
Oh, my goodness. And it is, I was telling Gary, I just briefly said to him, I said, boy, the literature on aging is such a mess. It is all over the lot. Sometimes it's hard to sort your way through it, and it's very dense. It's sort of like the Amazon jungle. Dense brush and weeds, and once in a while you'll come to a clearing, or you'll come upon a beautiful waterfall or mountain or whatever, and then you're back in the in the thick of it, so to speak. It is just a mess. That's a function of a lot of different things. So paradoxically, it's populated with a lot of theory. Usually theory will help clean and clear things up. Oftentimes, what has happened in the social sciences, for example, psychology and the other social sciences, for a lot of the time, there was no theory to drive the research. And you get all these, like an attitude research, which is still a mess and has been for decades, because it was the theories weren't there. And these researchers are doing studies, and there's nothing to, they have no frame of reference. There's no, and it just you get conflicting findings. And that's what's happening here. But ironically, the aging research is populated with a substantial number of theories, scores of them, if not hundreds. And it's still a mess because it's such a hard phenomenon to study. You would think, oh, it's not hard. You can do that in a lab. You can do in vitro kinds of studies. You can do experiments. You can control for variables, and you would think, right? But is it genetic? Is aging genetically determined, or is it not? I was just looking here, because I sent the articles. Is it programmed or is it not programmed? Programmed meaning genetically. Are there Are there certain mechanisms that kick in at certain times, genetically speaking, that facilitate the aging process, or is it non-programmed? Is it more environmental?
Now, I think that's a good question to ask, because your mother lived to be how old?
92.
And your father lived to what age?
56. And he died of lung disease caused by environmental industrial pollution where he worked on the platforms where trucks and trains. Lung tissues were completely scarred and destroyed, literally suffocated to death. And I watched that as a young man. It was a horrible thing to see. So he was very young, but he had had lung issues prior to that. He had bronchial issues in his early life, but he was susceptible. Yesterday, while at the gym, I was talking to somebody who lived in Vegas and was worked in the casinos.
Right.
And I said, my first question, was there smoking? Yes. And then this person recounted a friend who never smoked, but now has spots. She said spots showing up on her lungs. I said it's a secondhand smoke. So, these are the kinds of things, environmental factors that cause cancer and other diseases. And so trying to sort through it all, I'm trying to get through it and then write articles for the listeners and the viewers of the show and anybody else, and I publish them on the website and give my point of view and try to find a path that people can use in their everyday life.
Can you fight genetic aging? Have you come to that conclusion?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question, Gary, because if it's programmed, and it wasn't until recently that we found some evidence to suggest that aging was programmed on a cellular molecular level. It's not long ago, and the evidence is starting to build for that. But they cast it as an either or. Is it programmed or is it not programmed? Well, it could be both. Aging could be both. And there is no one omnibus theory, one overarching theory that explains aging. Not one. There are, as I told you, scores of theories that will isolate one aspect of aging, one mechanism, possible mechanism of action, whether it's free radicals, whether it's cross-linking of proteins, whatever. But there's no one omnibus overarching theory to say this is why aging. Theories answer the question why. Why does something happen? Before you get to why, you have to explore what it is. That's observational, descriptive research. You're just trying to understand the phenomenon. What is it? In the natural sciences, they spent decades and hundreds of years just observing things in the natural sciences and trying to understand what something was. That laid the foundation then to go to the next step to try to explain why does something happen. Now you know what it is. Why does it happen? In the social sciences, we didn't do that. We didn't spend decades and hundreds of years just doing descriptive science, if you will. We jumped right into explanation and then prediction. That's the sequence: description, explanation, prediction. And consequently, there's a lot of confusion. Now, you would think that the aging research, which is in the realm of, it's not the natural science, it's not, well, it is. But there's biology. You would think that it would be more organized, systematic, clearer in what it's trying to do. It's a mess. It truly is a mess. Because the process is so complicated and hard to study. And the one thing that occupies a great deal of time and attention, effort, and whatnot for humanity, always has, is aging. Because it culminates in what? Death. And humans are, denial of death. In denial. It's going to happen. And aging is a process that culminates in that one event. And that's why we're so intrigued, so interested, and so wanting to know, is immortality possible? Or if not possible, can mortality be extended? Can we achieve longevity? Can we intervene in the aging process? We'll be right back.
I'm Joy McCarthy, holistic nutritionist, and I expect more from my multivitamin. I've researched many vitamins, and what's truly different about Every Woman's One Daily from New Chapter is that it's fermented with probiotics and whole foods and gentle even on an empty stomach. Every Woman's One Daily helps you feel good every day, giving you immune, energy, and stress support, and nutrients for bone and heart health. You will notice a difference. Every Woman's One Daily recently won the Best Multivitamin Award, and I love that it's non-GMO project verified. Discover the wisdom of nature with New Chapter.
Whether you spend your free time on a treadmill, under a car, or in your garden, if your active lifestyle leaves you sore, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce may be exactly what you need. Inflammaforce has a natural herb blend that acts as an anti-inflammatory to help maintain healthy joint and mobility support. There are standardized herbs like white willow, boswellia, turmeric, ginger, and devil's claw. The vegetarian capsule promotes easy digestion and a fast-acting dissolve process. Inflammaforce includes a proprietary enzyme herbal blend full of antioxidants and flavonoids that target pain and inflammation throughout the body. Body Vigor's Inflammaforce contains ingredients that support normal, healthy joint flexibility and function, builds healthy tissue, and helps with your recovery process. So if you're tired of sore joints and inflamed muscles, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce is your answer. Purchase Inflammaforce.
One thing that has come clear to me, though, in spite of the confusion in the aging literature, the science of aging, all that's been written, and it's just truckloads, truckloads. One thing is clear, that people, there are age-related diseases, and it is a process, and it's a process of decline, of deterioration over time, and it becomes evident. We can see it. We see it in people. We see it. We can externally observe it in people, and we can then also study it. What's going on the inside? We can now, given all of the technology with CT scans and whatnot, we can see what's going on a cellular, molecular level in the human body with respect to the aging process. And we know that no species, almost nearly no species escapes it. And it ultimately, it's associated with the final event. I mean, there's certain things that are just obvious. Another thing that is obvious, that living under certain... Gary asked the questions. What he was asking was, notwithstanding the genetic part of it, what mechanisms are responsible that may be in place that kick in at certain times to accelerate aging, or to not accelerate it, but are responsible for it, notwithstanding those genetic factors. Is there anything that we can do? Can we intervene? And I walk away saying, yes, we can. I think there is a robust body of data and findings to, not in some pie-in-the-sky way, but in a realistic, grounded way, reach the conclusion that we can intervene, and we know of certain ways to do that. And diet and lifestyle become very important strategies, overall strategies. We can also intervene with medicine and hormone therapy and other kinds of therapies. So, yes, we can intervene in the process and extend somebody's life and moderate the process and moderate its effects. I walk away believing that in my own independent review of the literature. And that, it's a combination. It's not either or, so that's what makes it confusing. One of the things that researchers look for is they want to find ancient cultures that are still alive, hunter-gatherers, and to study them, to live in the culture and to study them. There are only a few left. The Ache of Paraguay is one of them. A-C-H-E is how you spell it. And one researcher spent, what did they spend, 15 years living in the culture? Something like that? Many years. And taking notes and trying to understand that culture. It's an ancient hunter-gatherer culture. And what the assumption is that if you can tap into this very natural culture, unaffected by so many environmental factors that we experience, which is another conclusion I've reached. Environmentally, we have inspired the aging process in the way that we live. I'm going to give you a prime example of that in something that you can get in the restaurant or at the grocery store. One thing, in a moment, that we have done things in the name of progress and sometimes even science that don't serve us well and cause aging to be accelerated, we facilitate it, we make matters worse. That I know for sure. That I see. The data are there for that. It's all around us. The one prime disease example, there are a couple, Cancer, heart disease. Those two diseases are 1 and 2. Heart disease and cancer are 1 and 2 for a reason. And it's not genetics. It's mostly environmental. In this particular hunter-gatherer culture, cancer is virtually unknown. That is a pattern that I recognize in other studies where they go into these ancient cultures, hunter-gatherer cultures, and cancer is virtually unknown until and when they come in contact with civilization. And then things go haywire, which is interesting. Cancer unknown. Makes you think, doesn't it? Yeah. Most cancers are environmentally attributed to environmental factors. At least my reading of the literature tells me that. Environmental. Just living your life. Being exposed to certain factors, whether it's in the air, the water, the soil, the food chain. And sometimes unbeknownst to people. When we come back, I'm going to give you an example. When you're going out on a Friday night with your date, you know, your wife, your girlfriend, whomever, and you're wanting to have a good time, and you're going to, you want to go to a nice restaurant, and you say, I'm going to eat healthy tonight. And then you order something that puts you at great risk. You would have been better off to stay home and cook. Yeah. I will share with you an article I came across. Gary turned me on to it. It was written by Joe McCullough, Dr. McCullough. He's been around a long time. I'll share it with you, and it makes you think.
The perfect complement to your beauty regimen? Try Form Essentials Zinnia. The finest of its kind, Zinnia offers twice as much biotin as other formulas, which has proven to unlock the vibrancy in even the dullest of hair, skin, and nails. Zinnia breaks through and rejuvenates cells internally, helping you achieve the allure of effortless beauty. Reviving your hair, skin, and nails has never been easier. This essential blend of biotin, alpha-lipoic, and hyaluronic acid, collagen, and vitamin C creates lasting enhancements to your natural good looks. Don't go on wondering. You're worth the results. This combination of ingredients can only be found in Zinnia. Pamper yourself with a proven bit of affordable luxury and start looking your best. Ask for Zinnia by name at your nearest vitamin retailer to begin your journey to restored nails, head-turning hair, and radiant skin today. For more information, visit formessentials.com.
When your alarm goes off, do you jump out of bed with excitement? Or does it take multiple alarms, a few snooze buttons, or a morning caffeine fix to get you going? These habits and daily stress cause a vicious cycle in which sleep becomes increasingly elusive. In fact, 54% of Americans report struggles to fall or stay asleep. For a better night's rest, look no further than Solace, an all-natural dietary supplement that supports healthy sleep and relaxation, so you get the rest you need to wake up clear-eyed, alert, and ready for the day. Solace has given thousands a better night's rest and the power to take back their mornings while enjoying the day ahead of them. Solace is formulated with non-addictive, scientifically proven, all-natural ingredients that support sleep and relaxation, such as melatonin, tryptophan, and 5-HTP. For more information or to order Solace, visit TakeSolace.com. Solace, for healthy sleep naturally.
Welcome back. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition, wherever and however you may be listening or watching the show and whatever you may be doing. And so, as I was saying, that one of the things I have concluded about this process of aging and what I've learned from the aging literature, the scientific car wreck that it is, that literature, it's clear to me that we can intervene in the process and that there are variables that move beyond genetics, non-programmed theories. I'll explain programmed and non-programmed in a very simple way here. That notwithstanding genetic mechanisms, cellular molecular mechanisms, environmental factors abound, and that we do a great deal to inspire or facilitate the aging process and disease. Just so you're clear, aging theories fall into two main categories, programmed and non-programmed. The programmed theory of biological aging is known as adaptive aging, where the organisms are considered to age and have a limited lifespan, and that aging is purposefully caused or allowed by a genetic program. Evolution. Non-adaptive, non-program, or non-adaptive theories of aging contend that aging is a passive result of an organism's, i.e. in our case humans, inability to deal with deteriorating kinds of processes, and that aging has no evolutionary purpose or benefit. So they like to divide them up into one or the other and make it binary. I keep asking, why is it either or? How could it not be both? But nevertheless, there are things that we do that don't help matters, and our food is one of them. I came across an article, Gary brought it to my attention, by Joe Mercola. Many of you know Dr. Mercola's work, and he wrote an article entitled, "An Inside Look into the Fish Industry Reveals Disturbing Facts That Could Threaten Your Health." Now, again, I'm giving attribution to Dr. Mercola in this piece, and he points the reader, to a documentary by Nicholas Daniels. And the documentary, I have not seen it. It's called Filet-O-Fish, O-O-H, Fish. And it's a critical look at the fish industry. And there is apparently exclusive foul footage from fish farms and factories around the world. Now, Dr. Mercola in the article, and I point this out because he's talking specifically about farm raising of salmon. So here you are out on a Friday night with your date, whatever, nice restaurant. You say, I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to order some salmon. And it's farm raised. And you didn't ask the waiter or the table help, is it fresh water or is it farm raised? And people say, how much difference could there be? Well, you decide, based on Dr. Mercola's account. He points out in his article that fisheries are faced with the severe problems from overfishing to chemical pollution and genetic mutation from toxins in the waters. So, through intensive farming and global pollution, the flesh of fish we eat has turned into a deadly chemical cocktail. Close quote. That's why I never ate that much fish. Aquaculture, which is farm raising of fish, has intervened and says we've solved the problem. We have the solution to overfishing and consuming contaminated fish. Fish farms is what they're called. According to Dr. Mercola and many others, they've caused more problems than they've solved. There's really little difference in terms of environmental pollution between land-based feedlots and water-based ones, close quote. Just as he's making the point, just as we have contaminated the feedlots for pork and cattle and whatnot, chickens, we've contaminated the water-based feedlots, if you will, for fish, raising them on farms. Farm salmon, and this is from his article. Farm salmon, one of the most toxic foods in the world, he asks. And in this documentary called Filet of Fish, it begins apparently, I have not seen it, but Dr. McCullough reports it begins in Norway, looking at the chemicals that are used in these fish farms. And apparently there's a fellow by Kurt Odekalev. He's a respected Norwegian environmental activist, and it is his opinion that salmon farming is a disaster for the environment and for human health. So, below the salmon farms, dotted across the Norwegian fjords, there's a layer of waste, some 15 meters high, teeming with bacteria, drugs, and pesticides. I'm reading from the article. In short, the entire sea floor has become destroyed, and since the farms are located in open water, the pollution from these farms is in no way contained. Oh my. A salmon farm can hold upwards of 2 million salmon in a relatively small amount of space. We're showing you an image of that. Yuck. These crowded conditions result in disease which spreads rapidly among the stressed salmon. I'm reading from the article, you can tell. According to this environmental activist, his name's Kurt, sea lice, pancreas disease, and infectious salmon anemia virus have spread all across Norway, Dr. McCullough writes. Yet consumers are not informed of these fish pandemics, and sale of these diseased fish continue unabated, close quote. Now, I know that they feed the fish meal. They have to dye the salmon because they turn gray. They lose their pink color, and it's just horrible conditions under which these fish are raised. It's literally a cesspool when you read this kind of description. A number of dangerous pesticides are used in an effort to stave off disease-causing pests, one of which is known to have neurotoxic effects. When you put organisms in close quarters like that, by the tens of thousands and millions, disease abounds. You have to manage it and control it, right?
Did you know?
Whether you spend your free time on a treadmill, under a car, or in your garden, if your active lifestyle leaves you sore, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce may be exactly what you need. Inflammaforce has a natural herb blend that acts as an anti-inflammatory to help maintain healthy joint and mobility support. There are standardized herbs like white willow, boswellia, turmeric, ginger, and devil's claw. The vegetarian capsule promotes easy digestion and a fast-acting dissolve process. Inflammaforce includes a proprietary enzyme herbal blend full of antioxidants and flavonoids that target pain and inflammation throughout the body. Body Vigor's Inflammaforce contains ingredients that support normal, healthy joint flexibility and function, builds healthy tissue, and helps with your recovery process. So if you're tired of sore joints and inflamed muscles, Body Vigor's Inflammaforce is your answer. Purchase Inflammaforce exclusively on Amazon.com.
reporting on an article by Dr. McCullough where he is talking about farm-raised salmon. And I set this up all by saying that we certainly do a lot to contribute to our own demise and the aging process and disease. And one little simple, I'm using this one example of how we do that, just with farm-raised salmon, never mind the gazillion other variables that we are involved with, contaminating this planet and doing things to make us sick and accelerate aging. Apparently there's a documentary, we found it, it's on YouTube, it's by Nicholas Daniels, it's called Filet-O-Fish.
We posted it to our Facebook page, so if you follow our Facebook page, it's right up there. Brings you right to it. It's a free documentary. It's on YouTube.
Okay. And Dr. McCullough references it in his article. He says that overall, farm salmon is 5 times more toxic than any other food product tested in this one study. This, by the way, they're serving in Norway. They're serving farm-raised salmon in Norway. Okay. I thought that aren't they supposed to have a lot of fish in Norway?
They use that. They eat that salted cod or whatever it is up there.
Okay. Oh. So this one researcher tested a number of food groups sold in Norway for toxins. Farm salmon contained the greatest amount of toxins. This is not science fiction. It's not science fiction. You end up looking like science fiction after you eat it, but you get my meaning. I mean, wild salmon contains 5 to 7% fat, and it's brittle and breaks apart when bent, a highly abnormal feature. But farm salmon is fatter. Has a lot more fat. 14 to 34% more fat. Farm salmon is brittle, and it breaks apart when the fish get bent. It's like that's not supposed to happen. And where do the toxins like to settle? In the fat. And so you're eating this fatty fish that's even more fat, contain more body fat, if you will, than the cold water salmon or freshwater salmon, and it's all it is a better container for the toxins. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I'm just talking about one thing. Never mind all the other environmental insults that we are exposed to. Just walking down the street, breathing the air, and we wonder why we get sick. When I was looking at this article, Evidence for Aging Theories from the Study of a Hunter-Gatherer People, the Ache of Paraguay, I was looking at their causes of death. This is an ancient hunter-gatherer culture. I shared this with Gary. Homicide and accidents. There is some homicide and neglect, and the Paraguayans have massacred these people too, by the way. That's been part of their violence, dying by violence. Infections and intoxications, there are various causes. But let me read to you some of the violence and accidents that cause death in this culture. Buried alive, left behind, a club fight, a homicide, killed by one of their own tribe members, shot by a Paraguayan, captured by Paraguayan, snake bite, eaten by a jaguar, hit by lightning, fell from a tree, hit by falling tree, or got lost. Those were the causes of death due to accident. Infections and intoxications. Fever after eating piku larvae, fever after eating cracho larvae, fever after eating honey, fever after eating palm starch or corn, malaria, fever after touching blood, skin infection, sores on neck, swollen body, systemic infection. No mention of cancer, no mention of heart disease. Eaten by a jaguar, yeah.
That doesn't mean get ran over by the Jaguar car. It's an actual roar.
Exactly. Not the commercial Jaguar. Exactly. Other causes: childbirth, stomach problems, liver problems, sick in the lungs, old age.
Okay, but how many was that, though? What was the numbers?
They're small because the tribe is small. There's only 100+ people in it. This is a small tribe, man. There's no mention of cancer, no mention of heart disease, no mention of these chronic diseases that afflict. People are dying. It's reasonable, yeah, eaten by a jaguar because that's how they live.
Yeah.
They get left behind, they get buried, they die in a fight, they get shot by the Paraguayans who hunt these people. It's criminal what they've done. Snake bite, they die by that. Sure, they're living they're hunter-gathered. This is an ancient, so much for, that stupidity and nonsense with this hunter-gatherer business. This is how hunter-gatherers live, man. And this is how they die. All this romanticized notion about, I'm going to eat like a hunter-gatherer. Really? You are you?
My obsession is Alaska and all the shows that come out of Alaska.
You got cured.
Yeah, I got cured over that. Okay, quickly.
We romanticize these things.
We do. And, eating like that. You can't eat like that.
No, you can't be eating larvae. These people don't, So they're dying of reasons and causes that are in themselves ancient. People do die of snake bite in our country, but these people, that's a major threat to them. You don't have to worry about a jaguar consuming. You have to worry about getting run over by one.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, my buddy Dewey almost got
hit by a jaguar.
No, bit by a snake. He got bit.
Bit by a snake. Okay, so he's out in the wilderness. But you get my point. So, eating farm salmon, you're wanting to do right. So instead of me ordering the steak, you would have been better off probably to order the filet. You order the farm salmon, and you read Dr. McCullough's article, and this is just one example. There are scores of articles on farm salmon. You couldn't, I've said it on the air many times, you couldn't get me to eat farm salmon at gunpoint.
Yeah.
Swimming in their own fecal matter, pesticides, drugs that they have to give them. And then you eat that. And by the way, they have to color them, dye them, because they turn gray. This is what we do. And then we wonder why we get sick. And we wonder why we don't age so well. Environmental is a big factor. Putting so much stress on the body, disease and aging and death. My goodness. Welcome to Let's Talk.
And I got the wiping graphics now. Do you see that?
Yes. Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition. Great to be with you. Thanks for tuning in. Start of a new week. Glad you could come by. We're glad to be here with you. And Ellen Kami is my guest in this portion of the show, the natural nurse. And she's going to talk about something that has been coming up in my project on aging, my review of the literature and writing about it and doing this series. And it comes up, the whole concept of antioxidants, for example, is what she wants to talk about. And there's an article by Carlos Lopez Oten and others, Blasco, Partridge, Serrano, and Cromer. And it's called The Hallmarks of Aging. It's published in a journal called Cell. And in the article, they identify 9 hallmarks of aging. Let me just read those to you. Altered intercellular communication, genomic instability, that's where genes get, I don't want to say contaminated, but get destroyed. Proteins get unfolded and all kinds of damage. DNA damage, which are the proteins. Telomere attrition, we've talked about that on the show.
Yes.
Shortening of telomeres. They consider that a hallmark of aging. Epigenetic alterations. These are things above the gene. Epi means above. I've talked about that on the show. Loss of proteostasis, dealing with proteins. Deregulated nutrient sensing, mitochondrial dysfunction, cellular senescence, stem cell exhaustion. Now, as I look at those particular hallmarks, I can see where radical oxygen species, free radicals get implicated in mitochondrial dysfunction, in telomere attrition, genomic instability. Free radicals are these molecules that have atoms that have lost an electron, right? And they are oxidants, if you will. Free radicals, oxidation. Well, antioxidants our body makes some of them, are supposed to keep these in check. An antioxidant is a molecule that will give up an electron and not go rob it from another. And they don't do any damage. That's why antioxidants are so important. They moderate some of the free radical damage that can be done, or try to prevent molecular mayhem from happening due to more free radicals running about in your cells than not. Right? So that's where antioxidants come into play. And they serve a good purpose. Given the way we eat and given the way we live, we expose ourselves to many free radicals or cause them to happen. Either smoking, drinking, stress, eating what I was talking about in the first hour, farm-raised salmon that are just as contaminated as can be. So antioxidants play a role in the intervention of aging, of the aging process. But make no mistake, sometimes it sounds very crystal clear how things are in that literature. It's not. There is a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of conceptual, theoretical confusion, disagreement. There is insight that can be found here and there, and we know a lot. We're learning a lot. You got programmed and non-programmed theories. They fall into two basic categories. Either the theory can be a programmed theory or a non-programmed theory. I explained what that meant earlier in the show. And I'll I'll talk about that when I publish my articles as I go along. So we can intervene, or we can accelerate the process. I just found it so strange in this one article that I referenced in the first hour about the Ache of Paraguay, that ancient hunter-gatherer tribe. Takes all the romance, all that crazy thinking about, I want to be a hunter-gatherer and eat like a hunter. Really? Is that how you want it? Yeah? Really? Do you now? Go look at the data. What is interesting about this one study, this one group of research, they lived in that culture for 15 years. It took them 5 years to write, to get things down. They were collecting data. And those data are very important because they give us great insight into how people age, not affected by many of the variables that we're affected by. But they die of different causes. Eaten by a jaguar, bitten by a snake, hit by a falling tree, lightning. But what was interesting, when you looked at the list of infectious diseases from which they died, and you looked at the diseases, period, you didn't see cancer and heart disease among them. Those diseases are diseases of civilized society and modern life, so to speak. We contribute a great deal to our own demise. We also have extended life, too. Better medicine, better sanitation methods, and we've increased longevity, better care, and so on and so on. But be mindful that in this country, we're not number one in longevity or average life expectancy. We're down there, depending on which outfit you look at, United Nations, World Health Organization, CIA, whichever one you look at, we rank in the 30 something, sometimes we rank 50th. So we're far from the top. We're not, we're living longer, but we don't, what is our health span? That's the question you have to ask. Not what's your lifespan, what is your health span? How long can you live in a healthy state without morbidity or comorbidities where you're suffering and in a lot of trouble? And that's why this literature, this topic is so intriguing. It implicates every single person listening, always has, always will. It's made its way into literature, into the arts, into science, into philosophy, the whole notion of aging. It has preoccupied humankind since time immemorial, and still does. We know a lot, but some still believe we only have scratched the surface. And it makes you mad. Most cancers are environmentally caused. Genetics is involved, no doubt. But we turn this planet into a toilet. In fact, maybe your toilet is more sanitary than the planet in some cases, if you're hygienic and clean your bathroom.
Or if you walk through San Francisco like we learned last week.
Right. Check out my show where I talked about what they found on human fecal matter, piles of human fecal matter, needles and whatnot, in downtown San Francisco, that beautiful city, where children walk on their way to school and have to watch where they step so they don't step on a needle.
And have to be taught.
And be taught that.
Yeah.
And escorted through the streets of San Francisco. So much for civilized society. So upbeat today.
Almost 52% of men experience erectile dysfunction and benign prostatic hyperplasia. If you've had challenges with virility, sexual health, or low energy, Body Vigor's Alpha Extension may be the answer for you. Body Vigor's Alpha Extension can help revitalize your alpha male and extend your love. Our formula is one of the highest quality nutraceuticals available, formulated to support the processes involved in promoting a healthy male sex drive, energy, and stamina. Alpha Extension has 2 powerful herbal blends, Virilomax, which focuses on male sexual health, and T-Pump Activator, which helps balance your testosterone levels. Revitalize your alpha male with Body Vigor's Alpha Extension, exclusively available on Amazon.com.
My guest in this portion of the show is Ellen Comey. She is a guest on the show and an educator for Country Life Vitamins, and she wanted to talk about antioxidants today, a very important theme. It's a sub-theme that gets involved in the narrative and the conversation on aging, for sure. And what are antioxidants? How do they work? Why are they important? How do you get them into your body, and so on? And Dr. Kami hasn't been on for a while, so it's nice to have her back. Welcome back, Dr. Kami. Welcome back to the show. It's great to have you on. Happy 2018. I haven't talked to you in 2018.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're in a new year. Thank you so much, Dr. Mike. Happy to be here on behalf of Country Life. And you give such great information, a lot of in-depth information about the newest theories that you were talking about in terms of programmed theory versus non-programmed theory. And there's no absolute answer about those things, but it's great that you bring them up for your listeners to consider.
I had, well, thank you very much. I was sharing this with the audience in this ancient culture, the Ache culture, this in Paraguay. I looked at, and just as we lose sight of where we are and what ancient culture. These are one of the few remaining cultures or tribes left. Violence and accidents. These were in adults 15 to 59 years of age, Ellen. This was the list from which they died, and the number of people. I won't give you the number of people, but it's too tedious. But I'm just going to list them in the order indicated in the article: buried alive, left behind, a club fight, homicide, killed by another Ache, shot by Paraguayan, captured by Paraguayans. The Paraguayan people have massacred these people, by the way. I don't know why, but snake bite, eaten by jaguar, hit by lightning, fell from a tree or hit by falling tree, or got lost. Those were the violence and accidents. When you look at the infectious and diseases or intoxications, or diseases generally, there's no cancer or heart disease or any of these modern diseases even listed. People dying from eating, particular larvae, even eating contaminated honey and so on. It's kind of intriguing how we are so advanced in the way we live, but we're dying of things by our own hand in the way we live and what we're doing to the environment, aren't we?
This is so true, but like you said, then also it's not like people have never had antioxidants in their life before modern life, because it is produced endogenously. That means inside the body. Mm-hmm. So these molecules, as you described so correctly, are unstable, and so many of the things that cause aging that you talked about, like loss of flexibility, telomerase damage to the telomeres, all these things are because of changing status in molecules and loss of electrons. And when those things get out on their own, that's when they become what we'll call free radicals. Mm-hmm. And free radicals are looking for another electron. They'll go over to a membrane and they'll pull one off. And that actually causes physical damage. So it does have to do with the person's resiliency. Then when we talk about antioxidants, the word that's often used is quelch. So they quelch these crazy free radicals that are going around, causing problems because they're having street gang fights or whatever they're doing there, on a human.
No, I get the metaphor.
Yeah. So then the antioxidants quiet them down. They feed them an electron, but the antioxidants don't get really involved in that reaction, but they're wonderful at calming down those aggressive free radicals. By the way, there's something called pro-oxidants, and a lot of the things we know that are very good antioxidants, when they're there in too high an amount, they can become pro-oxidants and have the opposite effect. We can even see that with some really helpful things, like, a little bit of coenzyme Q10 is excellent and can act as an antioxidant. Taking the whole bottle is not such a good idea.
Taking a whole bottle, that's right. Taking a whole bottle is not a good idea. So, you from Country Life, there's certainly any number of foods that we can eat, and primarily vegetables and fruit and legumes and whatnot, all plant-based foods, whole plant-based foods where we can get our antioxidants. But not many. The majority of the population is not eating a whole food plant-based diet. They're not.
But we should. And what I have my personal patients do, actually, Dr. Mike, is I have them take around with them all day blank index cards, the small ones, and colored markers. And everything you put in your mouth, you make a colored line on your card, and the homework assignment is to make a rainbow. And if you're making a rainbow, it means you're eating brightly colored fruits and vegetables, and then you're getting tons of antioxidants. But you're right, not everyone does that.
Sure, by some people, at the end of the day, the card is as white as it when it started because they're eating a monochromatic diet. White, everything's white.
That's true, or brown.
Or brown, right?
True.
Yeah. So at Country Life, they have any number of dietary supplements that are antioxidant related. When we come back, we'll get you to talk about those, list them, describe them, and we'll continue our conversation with Dr. Kami. It's chemistry is, people loathe taking it, and chemistry classes are not easy for sure. But nutrition is about chemistry. It is about atoms and molecules and compounds and chemical reactions and enzymes to make them happen, and on and on and on. We eat the food not realizing all this. How can I put it? It's really a marvel what goes on. But to understand it, just losing of loss of an electron, it's a big deal. We'll be right back.
Women who are pregnant or planning to have a child have specific nutritional needs. Maintaining optimal nutritional intake is important for mother and baby. Body Vigor's Preferred Prenatal can help mother and baby receive the appropriate building blocks for growth, development, and healthy function. The Preferred Prenatal formula provides essential vitamins and minerals, along with added support ingredients such as folic acid and DHA. Preferred Prenatal also incorporates a bonus herbal blend to help the mom-to-be with the uncomfortable side effects of pregnancy, like nausea, vomiting, mood swings, and uterine health. Support a healthy pregnancy for you and your baby with Preferred Prenatal, exclusively on Amazon.com.
Welcome to Let's Talk Nutrition, wherever and however you may be listening or watching the show, and whatever you may be doing, coast to coast or worldwide for that matter. My guest today is Dr. Ellen Comey. She's talking about antioxidants, a very important theme in the conversation on aging, for example, and can be a tactic in intervening in the aging process to get antioxidants into your body so that you don't have a bunch of free radicals running around creating molecular mayhem, cell and tissue and organ damage all over the place, or otherwise accelerating aging. Dr. Comey, welcome back. I see from the booking form that you had a number of classic compounds in mind found in dietary supplements like resveratrol, pycnogenol, and so on. I'll leave it to you where you want to go with all of that.
Sounds good. Well, I like the way you set this up, Dr. Mike, because it's really not the most important thing in terms of the supplements, although we'll be talking about that. Supplements are supplemental. First, you want to have a great diet, and then these can fill in. And then, of course, they're sort of added insurance. So I don't want anyone to think, oh, I'll just eat all junky food and take all these bottles of stuff and that'll be fine. It's really, that's why we call them supplements. They supplement your healthy lifestyle. But they certainly can be helpful. So what I would talk about in terms of Country Life, we have put together many formulas, as you mentioned, but one that makes it easy for the person on the go is called Super 10 Antioxidants. And this is a whole bunch of things with proven free radical damaging protection. So some of these are vitamins, such as vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, calcium, zinc, and selenium, but you want to know what form you're getting. That's what's so important, because sometimes if you look at your vitamin, let's say you go, oh, well, my vitamin has vitamin E, I buy a commercial one, whatever one, we won't say names, you need to read the fine print, because if your vitamin E, which does act as an antioxidant, if it's D-L-tocopherol, if it has that little teeny L, and if you're a senior, which I am, by the way, to read that L, you're probably going to need your glasses and a magnifying glass, and look really carefully, because if it's D-L-tocopherol, that's the kind of vitamin E that makes your cell membranes less flexible instead of more flexible. And it causes the cell membrane to have little points on it, like little right angles, like if you think of an L. That's just what it does to it. And then if any free radical comes along, we talked about them, and hits the cell membrane, instead of that vitamin E being protective, it actually makes the cell membrane more brittle. So, you know, quality counts. That's what you need to know. So if you're looking at something like Country Life, they're not going to be putting a DL-tocopherol, which is a kind of vitamin E you don't want. Check your bottles. And then there are many nutrients, like you talked about. Green tea, for instance, that's well known and has very high level of antioxidant activity, particularly if we know the polyphenol amounts, because the polyphenols are the protective molecules that we find in green tea. Curcumin, which is from turmeric. Boy, turmeric must be winning accolades of the year. You know, it was a word that very few people knew a couple years ago, Dr. Mike, and now I bet all your listeners are familiar with turmeric, which is a dark yellow spice, and curcumin, which is one of the active constituents. Another great one is N-acetylcysteine, and also grape skin extracts, and we'll talk about pycnogenol in a little while also, and resveratrol, which is found in grapes as well. So grape skin extracts also is high in those all-important polyphenols. Another good word to think about is called proanthocyanidins, because those are protective antioxidants. So this is all together in one in the Super 10 antioxidants, so it makes it easy to get, you know, a whole bunch of antioxidant protection. I might use something like this when I'm going on an airplane. to just give that extra sort of overall antioxidant boost. Because, like you said, just modern life is full of things that create free radicals.
For sure. And 877-897-8255 is toll free. You can call anytime you want. We do live, we eat and live in a way, Dr. Kami, that really does inspire free radicals and free radical damage on a cellular level, cells, tissues, and organ systems eventually. And what people, it gets a little complicated, but this oxidative damage is done to proteins, to lipids, to DNA. It's out of our awareness. It's not necessarily painful as it's happening, but the consequences down the road can be very painful and very consequential long term. Heart disease, cancer, any of these diseases of modern life. Diet and lifestyle related diseases, as a matter of fact. It's interesting in looking at the literature on articles about antioxidants and antioxidant supplementation. When you look at the scientific literature, there's some articles that conclude, well, taking antioxidants is not necessarily a good idea, it doesn't help. And I'm thinking, well, it's interesting, some of these articles, the assumptions that they make, and they assume that the general population is eating a diet that provides them the antioxidant protection that they need, at least at a minimum. And on the whole, I don't know if we are as a population eating that way, and supplementing would be a useful strategy. What is your take on that?
Yes, I think so. Definitely. And for someone who eats, rather well, like I would say I do, just because I love eating that way and because I've been having this lifestyle since 1964. My children who are in their 40s never got an antibiotic or any kind of conventional medication. Not that they never got ill, but I was prepared by knowing what to do ahead of time and enforcing healthy eating in the house. Then we do use supplements also. And so it just gives you that added layer of protection. The only thing I like to warn is that some people go, I won't do anything in terms of bringing down stress or exercising or eating correctly. I'll just take all those pills. And that's just not enough. And like you said, in the studies, Dr. Mike, very often if you read them deeply, you'll find out. Let's say they did a study on vitamin E. Well, they used the wrong one in the study.
Yeah.
They used the D-L-tocopherol, which is an artificial damaging molecule, instead of the D-alpha-tocopherol like you might find in a better quality supplement like Country Life. So you need to look deeply into what they're talking about in those studies.
So what's interesting, in the literature on aging, you'll find study after study, paper after paper on pharmacological intervention. They get all upset with supplement intervention, though.
As a family-owned company since... Are your joints feeling out of date and stiff? Is that old sports injury flaring up? Is your body aching from the daily wear and tear at work? Body Vigor's Joint Ready keeps you at the ready for any joint pain that gets out of line. Unfortunately, as we age, joint pain becomes more common. Body Vigor's Joint Ready can help provide relief so you can continue to go about your day. Our formula contains sulfated forms of glucosamine and chondroitin. Studies show that these sulfated forms are more effective than regular glucosamine bound to hydrochloride. Joint Ready promotes a healthy inflammatory response, facilitates cartilage synthesis, and provides additional antioxidants. Keep your joints at the ready with Body Vigor's Joint Ready, exclusively on Amazon.com.
LTN Health question of the day. It's a easy chemistry question. Talking about oxidation. I gave the answer a little bit ago. I was talking about electrons. Electrons is where all the action is in chemistry. That's where all the bonding happens, and things can go haywire, but things can get created and homeostasis created with these electrons as well. That's where bonding. You've taken chemistry, you know what I'm talking about. Here's the simple question. Is oxidation the loss of electrons, or is oxidation the gain of electrons? Which one is it? When something gets oxidized, is there a loss of electrons, or is there a gain of electrons? Here's the number to call.
877-897-8255. That's 877-897-8255.
Dr. Comey, welcome back. You mentioned that Super 10, but there are other, I was looking at your notes to me on the booking form. You mentioned some other products from Country Life that are...
Resveratrol would be a great one to talk about.
Go ahead.
So resveratrol, which people may have heard of because you think wine when you think resveratrol, although there's other sources that actually help. But what is it? Well, first of all, Country Life resveratrol is certified gluten-free, certified vegan by AVA. That's the American Vegetarian Association. It's in recyclable packaging and supports wind power, as well as no yeast, wheat, soy, milk, salt, preservatives, artificial anything. So, it's just always a great choice. But when we talk about resveratrol in general, there's some very, very interesting studies on resveratrol, looking at how it actually influences the anti-aging genes. You had talked earlier, Dr. Mike, about how aging and free radical damage is linked to genes. So there's a specific gene which is called the SIRT1 gene, which is actually referred to as the longevity gene, that it seems that resveratrol is able to support. So it may actually give the cell some upregulation in terms of its ability to ward off aging. Also, lots and lots of research on the cardiovascular healthy effects of resveratrol. So I think resveratrol is a really, really good choice. Now, you don't get that much when you just drink a glass of wine, however.
That's right.
That's how it worked. That would be great. But
people think if I drink wine, I'm going to get a lot of resveratrol. No. You'll end up being drunk before you can even get any therapeutic dose.
This is true. That's why it's sort of, when we use it in a supplement, using a concentrated form. And most often, there is some great skin or red wine used as well. But the major part of the active kind of resveratrol, which is called trans resveratrol, is actually extracted from a plant called Japanese knotweed. In terms of genus and species, that's Polygonum cuspidatum. Now, I'll tell you, I just walk up to that plant, I break it off, and I chew it, okay?
Oh,
now, not everybody can do that. I just gave a class at Hippocrates Institute a couple of weeks ago where I did give a class on how to gather wild plants and make them into medicine.
Wow.
So that's a good thing to learn.
What about I notice in your notes, pignogenol.
That's another one.
You mentioned that, too.
Yes. Now, pegnogenol, which is PYC, pegnogenol, that is from pine bark extract. And pine bark extract is very high in those all-important polyphenols that we discussed earlier. Mm-hmm. So actually, in Country Life's resveratrol plus, one of the things that is a plus in that one is that pegnogenol is there as well. And we have pegnogenol just all by itself. Very powerful, 100 milligrams of it with an 85 to 90% total polyphenol extract of that pegnogenol. And pegnogenol, again, is not something that exotic. It is actually gotten from the bark of pine trees.
And you mentioned alpha lipoic or active lipoic acid. What do you mean by that?
Oh, yes, because there's various kinds of lipoic acid. And one of the kinds that are very active is called R-alpha lipoic acid. So in Country Life's active lipoic acid, they have a combination of the lipoic acid and the R form. In fact, there's 43 milligrams of the R-alpha lipoic acid, which really gets absorbed very efficiently and stops the progression of free radicals, which is kind of like rusting. As I loved your question, by the way. Let's see who gets that one right.
Well, let's go to that. Let's go to Brandon, Florida. Connie, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on. How are you today?
Yes, I'm fine. How are you doing?
Good. In answering the question, I'd like you to think the opposite of what you think it is.
Okay. The opposite?
Think of the opposite of what you think it is. In other words, whatever you think it is, just go the other way. So here's the question. Is oxidation, in terms of electron transfer, is it oxidation the loss of electrons, or is it the gain of electrons? And again, my hint to you is it's the loss of electrons.
I'm thinking it would be the loss.
Yes, oxidation is the loss of electrons, and that creates, and atoms don't like that. They like things to be paired up, right? So then it'll go off and start stealing electrons from other atoms in the molecule. And then it creates molecular mayhem. Long story short, it causes cellular and molecular damage to the cells, to the tissues, then to the organs, then the organ system. This all happens out of our awareness, but eventually we become aware. Congratulations, you won a $25 supplement gift card. My pleasure.
The program.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Dr. Kami, the only problem is that we're out of time. We could spend more time talking about this. Country Life Vitamins, the supplements that we mentioned, of course, are sold in fine health stores throughout the United States. And everything's archived on this show. The audio and the video, go back and listen. Country Life Super 10 antioxidant, Country Life's Resveratrol Plus, their Pycnogenol, their one called Grape Complete, and then their active lipoic acid. That's just some of the antioxidant-related supplements from Country Life Vitamins. Dr. Kami, thank you so much for being on today. We appreciate
Dr. Mike.
We appreciate you. We appreciate your contribution to the show. Are you going to Expo West?
No, I'll be lecturing elsewhere that weekend, but have a great time.
All right. Thank you very much. Take care. Your health is your wealth, and your health is the wealth of those that care about and love you.
Have you discovered that your post-activity electrolyte drink contains a lot of not so good